Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 79 of the Run in the Paint podcast. I'm Miles. I'm here with Jackson and Nick. Guys, how are you doing today?
Good, man. What's up, fellas? What's up, everybody? Good to see you.
The master of his craft is back. Thank you.
The
Jackson.
prediction machine. Prediction machine.
Prediction machine.
Yes, unbelievable. Friday night, we had the trade of the offseason, something that Jackson predicted at least 5 months ago. Unbelievable. But we will get to that trade later. Unfortunately, no Joey with us today. But we do have a lot of things to get to on, I guess, the very first preseason edition of the Runnin' the Paint podcast for this season. First up, some unfortunate news, breaking news on Monday morning. Hall of Famer DIKEMBE MUTOMBO passed away Monday morning at 58 years old due to brain cancer. Just a tough loss for the entire NBA. I think he did so much great things on the court, but probably at least 10 times more of that off the court. He really was a special person and ambassador for the league.
Yeah, I saw a pretty heartfelt message from his son on Instagram, and that was really cool to see. Just hopefully, like being able to keep his name alive, keep his image alive, keep his message alive, and all that. My favorite, obviously, I'm a little young to have seen him play, but my favorite moments from Mutombo are always going to be his commercials, the grocery store where no, 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 not today. That's going to be that was etched in my brain from a very young age, and it's going to stay cemented there for a long time. So
yeah, I hope the NBA and like all the teams he played for kind of honor him in some way. Like obviously they're gonna honor him, but like maybe like a little patch on the jersey or something something like that. Even if it's just the teams he played for. Like I wouldn't mind if the Rockets did that this year, or like the Sixers, the Nuggets, something like that.
how would you guys feel about a Mutombo Memorial Night, and everyone just gets like a giveaway long finger that like moves on its own?
That would be
Or a
awesome.
foam. Maybe they make a special foam finger, Mutombo, or DIKEMBE Mutombo.
Or
foam finger.
like a bobble. Like every team does bobbleheads for that night. Like with his finger.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
That would definitely be fun. I mean, the finger wag, that's definitely the
Trademark.
signature thing, the trademark that we all know him for. And as much fun as he had off the court, I mean, the things that he was doing back for his native land, the Democratic Republic of Congo, helping them out, starting the DIKEMBE MUTOMBO Foundation, built I believe, a $29 million hospital there, which was the first hospital that they had there in 40 years before, Mutombo did that. So he just did an amazing job of using his star platform in the NBA to give back to his country. And there's so many more things that he did. I mean, I think in my now 8 years of being a diehard NBA fan, I don't think there has been another player that has been talked about as much as DIKEMBE MUTOMBO for his work off the court. And that just speaks to how amazing he was both on and off the court. So will definitely be missed. Rest in peace to DIKEMBE MUTOMBO.
Yep.
Next bit of news. I don't remember which day exactly this happened last week, but
it was a sad day.
It was a sad day. We had Derrick Rose, former league MVP, retiring after 16 seasons in the NBA. Guys, what were your reactions to this news?
Nick, you can go first. You were there for
D-Rose. Yeah, no, I used to love watching D-Rose. Seeing him retire made me feel especially elderly. That wasn't great. That was my own personal experience though. And just for the NBA, losing a legend, like you said, youngest MVP in league history when he did it. And yeah, just no player really like him before Derrick Rose. I would say he was pretty special. At undersized, 6'2", 6'3", didn't really see a lot of guys like him doing the things that he did, and really paved the way for a lot of younger guys, a lot of smaller guys. It was definitely sad to see him hang it up, but not a surprise. I mean, he's a far cry from the MVP that he was back then. And his career, plagued by injury, infamous for being plagued by injury. So I'm glad that he was able to get to a point where he felt comfortable hanging it up and retiring. And just a shame to see a star sort of like burn out too soon, like what it could have been had he not gone down with these injuries. And yeah, the world may never know, but I'm glad that D Rose graced us with his basketball elegancy for the time that he did. And I'm just going to miss him for sure.
Yeah, he absolutely is one of the biggest what ifs in NBA history. What if Tom Thibodeau just took out Derrick Rose when the game was already sealed, game one against Philadelphia in the 2012 playoffs? Because you're right, things were just never the same. Even the rest of his time in Chicago was a little bit rough. To give him a ton of credit, though, he had the first ACL injury. This is in his fourth season in the league, and these first 4 years were just incredible. I mean, MVP at age 22, the youngest ever, as we said, 3 All-Stars, Rookie of the Year, and was the leader on really the only continued success that the Chicago Bulls have had since Michael Jordan in the 90s.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that this stretch, the Bulls were legit number 1 seeds, great shot at going to the NBA Finals. Unfortunately, they're one of the many teams that got foiled by LeBron in the Eastern Conference. But, post-injury, it was definitely tough for him because he was still trying to figure out what type of player he was. Even when he was traded from Chicago, there were a couple times during his stints with New York the first time and that first half season with Cleveland where he left the team, for a little period to just try to gather himself because of all the injuries. He didn't know if he wanted to keep going or not. And at that point, like this is in 2017 where we were like, man, is Derrick Rose really going to retire? Like even as Cavs fans, we thought that he might retire, that season. And to think he was able to play 7 more seasons and even resurrect his career a little bit, going to Minnesota, becoming that 18-point scorer again. He kind of became the perfect role player point guard, became a 40% three-point shooter and, able to eventually go out on his own terms, which I think is probably the best thing that you could ask for, as a professional athlete.
Yeah, I mean, I remember one of the greatest moments I've seen is his 50-point game for Minnesota. I mean, it was just it was an emotional roller coaster. And I was actually watching that game live on TV when it happened. So I was I just tuned in because I didn't watch it from the start. But when I heard D Rose was playing good, I was like, let's tune in really quick because D Rose. I remember out where I was when he hit the game-winning 3 against the Cavs and the playoffs and all that. So I mean, I got to watch some of D Rose. I didn't get to watch the early at least watch and remember the early days of D Rose, but I saw a lot of his good moments still. And I'm glad.
Yeah, shout out to Derrick Rose. Question for you guys about Derrick Rose. It's something that always comes about when we see, a legendary player retire. Do you guys think that Derrick Rose will make the Hall of Fame? Now, this is a very tough case because he is the youngest MVP in NBA history. But when you look at his resume, because of the injuries, everything was kind of cut off after those first 4 years. He made 3 All-Star games, 1 All-NBA appearance in his MVP season, Rookie of the Year in 2009. Is that enough, you think, for him to make the Hall of Fame? Because if he doesn't, he'd be the only MVP to not be in the Hall of Fame. It's a super tough question.
I think he should, just because there's a lot of other people that I feel like he still had a better career than that are in it. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I'd say yes, because you kind of made the case every MVP is in the Hall of Fame, and he also has a Rookie of the Year award. And sometimes, getting inducted is more than about just the longevity of your career or how how many accolades you got over the course of your career. And I just think the impact that he had on the game qualifies him to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk longevity, like his prime was obviously cut short, but the fact that he was still able to have a 16-year career, it's
Oh, yeah.
kind of crazy when you think about it. You know, how he could have really hung it up at any time with all those injuries. I don't think anyone would have really blamed him for it, you
No.
know, those early years, but able to play for 16 seasons, play a lot of different roles for a lot of different teams. So just a special player. Glad to see him go out on his own terms, and just thank you to Derrick Rose, because he like you said, Nick, he was a very special player for that time. Like, now we are starting to see more, you know, over the last 10 plus seasons.
He was Russell Westbrook before that even was a thing.
Right. The Russell Westbrooks,
Or
the
John
John
Morant
Morants,
was even
even
born.
John Wall, even like younger guys, like I know Jaden Ivey was getting kind of comparisons a little bit to that because of his athleticism. So definitely a unique player, you know. So congrats to Derrick Rose, definitely a legend. But now let's get into the biggest trade of the summer. I still can't believe that it ended up happening. It was a 3-team trade, but mainly it was a 2-team trade. The New York Knicks acquire Karl-Anthony Towns from the Minnesota Timberwolves for Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, and the Pistons lottery protected first-round pick for this year. So that's not going to convey. That's pretty much nothing. And the Hornets take on some dead salary, Daquan Jeffries. They're going to get most likely some second-round picks to make this deal happen. Jackson Goglin, dude, the predictions. I know we harp on you a lot, but we got to give you credit when you get it right, because, you know, a lot of people on social media were like, whoa, I can't believe this trade happened. This is like one of the most random trades ever. But me, like, dude, we've been talking about this potential trade for months, so I'm not surprised
at all, dude. I was just happy. First of all, I think Charlotte won the trade. I'm just kidding. I think the Knicks definitely won this trade. Just in the sense that they needed a 5, and they went out and got, who I think is a perfect 5 for this team. A guy who can kind of stretch the floor, because, I mean, outside of Brunson and Anunoby from the corner, they don't really have the greatest spacing of all time. I know that was kind of a worry we were talking about, and you get the best big man for spacing in the league right now. And also, as Nick was talking about in the pre-pod lobby, Mitchell Robinson's out till probably like Christmas. So they needed a 5, and I think this allows Precious Achiuwa to come off the bench and kind of just be a good little spark plug if need be. And I think this lineup looks a lot more complete. I think, besides the bench took a big hit, losing DiVincenzo, and that's kind of the only reason I like this for the Timberwolves, is because DiVincenzo can be that 1. Because Conley is older and he could potentially be a 1. He played it in college, played it in high school a lot. So I think it could work out for him, or it could work out for them there. And we've seen Julius play well with the kind of center that Rudy Gobert is, playing well with Mitchell Robinson and the pick and roll and stuff. I watched the King of the Fourth Quarter video, and this is kind of where I'm getting a lot of this information from, so I'm copying him on a lot of this, but I mean, it's just the truth. Like, I think it's going to benefit Minnesota, because I think, I don't think they lose a crazy amount of spacing. Obviously, you're losing Cat, who's one of the best shooting big men. But Julius, I mean, he's been in a 3-point contest. He's not a bad shooter by any means either. I mean, he definitely shouldn't have been in there, but I mean,
Jackson, haven't you competed in some 3-point contests? You're still a bad shooter.
Oh my goodness gracious,
dude! I don't know.
Well, look, so this type of trade, this trade is just crazy for a number of reasons. We already mentioned the reason with Jackson predicting it, but just how polarizing this trade is. Because I've seen Knicks fans and Timberwolves fans, both sides. Some love this trade. Some absolutely despise this trade. there are so many different ways you can look at this trade. Nick, what do you think about this trade from the Knicks' point of view? We'll talk about the Knicks side of things first.
Well, I do think that their starting lineup is very good now, and that kind of really it does move the needle for me a little bit in their chances to compete in a 7-game series with the Celtics, because you got Bridges and Hart out there to defend Brown and Tatum, and then I mean if you want to put Anunoby on Tatum, that would work too. But you got a pretty solid perimeter defensive unit, which is how you're gonna have to stop the Celtics. Like, you're gonna have to keep them from initiating point of attack drives and getting into the paint, because that's gonna just fuel their offense. So I think that the starting lineup is really well set up for the Knicks to, handle the Celtics. I do worry about them losing DiVincenzo. I think that was a big loss for them. And then I'm worried about Cat in the middle there as a 5. Like, we saw Minnesota have him at the 5, and they had to go out and get Rudy Gobert because Cat couldn't get it done. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, so Karl-Anthony Towns last season was a much better defensive player. Obviously, he has Rudy Gobert alongside him. That is probably, I mean, the two biggest questions I have with this team are now the depth and Towns at that 5 position. To fix that, though, they do have great defenders around Towns and Brunson, their 2 best players. When you look at Mikal Bridges, just, I believe, 2-3 seasons ago, he was 2nd in Defensive Player of the Year voting. OG Anunoby is one of the few players in the entire league that can guard 1 through 5. So if need be, Tom Thibodeau will throw him on some 5s. It's not the most ideal, but he can get the job done if necessary. And even if it doesn't work with Towns at the 5 to start, we've seen that Towns can play the 4. When Mitchell Robinson comes back, you slide Towns to the 4. Hart's cool with coming off the bench, and you run it like that, and now your bench is a little better as well. I will say, for the Knicks with this trade, just a great job by the Knicks. It was just last episode, we were doing our Eastern predictions, and I had the Knicks as my 4th seed because of the Mitchell Robinson news, and I was like, okay, they're going to need to make a move at some point to address that center position. And I said some lower name guys, like Walker Kessler, Nick Richards. I wasn't expecting them to get one of the best centers in the NBA or one of the best bigs in the NBA to run that position. And Dante DiVincenzo, that piece, I think it is a big loss for them. But if the reports are true that he didn't want to take a reduced role, which I would understand. I mean, think about it. He's been basically in a reduced role his entire career. He has the Knicks franchise record for 3s made, great playoff run, 30-point games, game winners. And
his career has been increasingly, he's just been rising since Sacramento.
And now he has this breakout season, and then you basically trade for players that, while they're really good, they're replacing him in the starting lineup. So rightfully so, he could be like, man, I just emerged like this. I want to go have a bigger role somewhere else. So if that's the case for the Knicks, it makes sense to deal him if a player is not, super happy in their role, and he's going to have a chance to fill that role with the Minnesota Timberwolves. But the depth is definitely a huge question now. Because I mean, they don't have a backup shooting guard really at all. They're going to be playing Deuce McBride, Cam Payne. I was making fun of the signing when it happened. Now it's going to be real. Landry Shamet. They'll probably have Keita Bates-Diop playing 3. They're just really shallow with the bench.
Yeah, I think there's also some signings they can make that could help their bench unit.
Yeah,
I think the only thing you kind of worry about is obviously contracts in the future, but I think that's something that they can easily figure out. I think, who knows, maybe Mikal will take a pay cut like Brunson did, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like Brunson took the pay cut so he could play all his buddies, and I feel like he's probably a little pissed right now too, because I'm sure he wanted to play with Dante.
Well, I mean, it is only one player. He's probably happy to get the, Karl-Anthony Towns on the team.
Yeah. I mean, I think this Knicks team is scary. I think they match up with anyone. Now there's no worries, especially come off time when they'll have Mitch Rob back, because I think Hart will also provide a lot for that bench unit as well. Because then I think you could put him at the 3 off the bench, and then you could have Shamet at the 2, because Shamet's had some good playoff games. He's had some good regular season games.
Yeah,
Shamet's an underrated little piece off the bench. Especially, I mean, he could be an underrated guy to kind of not fully fill the void that DiVincenzo left, but like fill some of it with his shooting, because he shoots at a very high clip. He's really good. I've always liked Shamet. I think he was good on the Suns. He was good on the Wizards last year.
He's been good everywhere he's been, honestly, and
he's a consistent little player.
For a player that's, only, I guess he's going to age 27. This is going to be his 7th season in the league already. That's kind of crazy to even think. He's played with a lot of really good players. He started his career on the Sixers with Simmons and Embiid when they were in their heyday. Goes to the Clippers with Paul George, Kawhi, gets to learn from them. Then the big 3, Brooklyn Nets with, Kyrie, Harden, Durant. Phoenix with Chris Paul, Devin Booker. He knows how to play with great players and how to fit in. And you're right. I think him being that shooter off the bench, that is something that Donte DiVincenzo did do, and Shamet can probably not he's not going to replace what DiVincenzo did, but it's definitely going to help out a lot. As far as their playoff ceiling, this does, I mean, obviously Karl-Anthony Towns is a great player. I do still worry about him in particular matchups because of some of the other bigs in the Eastern Conference. But if Mitchell Robinson can come back and be healthy, that helps out a lot for sure. But again, he's a player that's, very injury prone. That's why even after this trade, people are making up trades for him, which is crazy. I don't think that they should move on from him yet, because I think he's such a valuable player with the rebounding ability that he has. But, I think that Karl-Anthony Towns at the 5, it should work the regular season. I think he's going to have a great year. But playoffs, I do still have some questions about, what he can do for them.
So you guys both think New York won the trade?
So let's go to the Timberwolves side of things, because I'm honestly still not sure. So Minnesota was in a very difficult position with this. I think I was probably even saying it maybe a year ago to the day, back when we started this podcast.
Yep.
They were going to need to make a move because they had just extended Jaden McDaniels on a near max contract. You're already paying.
Naz Reid got one.
But you're already paying Anthony Edwards his max, Rudy Gobert his max. Now McDaniels is kicking in this year, and Karl-Anthony Towns, who's on the 8th largest deal in the NBA. So that's why I think the Towns for Randle thing with Jackson started, because Towns is the most likely guy to get traded from the team. And the timing is what makes it disappointing, because, Karl-Anthony Towns spends his whole 9-year career with Minnesota, sacrificed so much, dealt with so much on and off the court, came in as, the number 1 pick, was the franchise, then they trade for Jimmy Butler. He has to go to a number 2. Doesn't work out. He goes back to number 1. They still don't have much success. And then Anthony Edwards comes in, and now he's the one starting to get all the love. So Towns has to go back to his, number 2 role. Then after 2 seasons of that, they ask you to change your position that you've never played before to fit with Rudy Gobert. And I think he did that about as well as he possibly could have. And just 1 year where they're contending, they trade him. So that part is what sucks and what's disappointing about this, because, it just doesn't seem right at all. But from a business standpoint, the trade makes perfect sense. They get $21 million cheaper to go from Towns to Randle, who, say what you want about Julius Randle, I'd put Towns and Randle nearly on the same tier. I think Towns is a better basketball player. But, I mean, when you compare the numbers and just look at their production on the court, like, Julius Randle is a winning basketball player. He has led good teams before,
For sure.
And you get Donte DiVincenzo, who fixes a need of your team. They needed to improve the 3-point shooting, and I was really concerned about their bench. Now that's a lot better. And then another thing about this trade as well is, because of the money situation that they were going in. They were about to go into the second apron with this team. And I don't think the Timberwolves wanted to do that yet because I don't know if they considered themselves a legit championship team yet. I'm sure that they don't. That's why they made this trade. But with this trade, it was basically going to be you either keep Towns on his big contract or you have to trade Naz Reid and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, two key bench players. So for that being your choice, obviously, at first you're like, man, we'd probably rather keep Cat. But when you look at what they got back for Cat, it's either Cat or it's Randle, DiVincenzo, Naz Reid, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. To me, you do that every single time.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like the way you frame that. Between choosing one Cat or four solid players, that includes Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo, and two of the guys that have already had some connectivity and some what's the other C word?
Cohesion, chemistry.
Yeah, they've had that cooking up there in Minnesota. I think Ant and DiVincenzo are going to play really well together. I hope that they have spent some time in the backcourt playing side by side. But no, I like this trade for Minnesota. Like you said, you pretty much nailed it on the head with the timing thing. It really is just unfortunate that, you're contending for the 1 seed and you make it all the way to the conference finals, and it's only the second time your franchise has even won a playoff series, and now you're giving up the best guy in the deal. So it kind of feels like
not even just the best. I would probably say the second best player in Timberwolves history right now, behind Kevin Garnett. I'd probably be Towns at number 2.
Yeah, no, I don't think you'd have many arguments for that. And yeah, that's kind of why it feels like a stab in the back or just a little bittersweet. But when you look at the business side of it and you look at the fact that it's keep 4 guys or keep one second, even if he is the second best player in franchise history, I agree it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel right, but I think it is a move that the Timberwolves did have to make.
I wish Joey were here because I really want to ask him if he still has Minnesota at number 1 after this.
Yeah. So what do you guys think about the Timberwolves team now that they have Julius Randle in there? There's a chance that he may not be ready to play to start the season, still dealing with his injury last year. But when he does get healthy, what do you guys think that could look like, on the floor?
Let me real quick. I do think it's similar to what I said about the Knicks. Like their starting 5 got a lot better and their bench got a little bit more depleted. I think it's like kind of the exact opposite for the Timberwolves. I'm a little bit more concerned just not having Cat there because it was pretty much the Ant and Cat show when their offense looked dead, and that was the reason they lost the Dallas series because their offense couldn't keep up. And yeah, they're not going to have a 7-foot big man that shoots 40% from deep anymore.
Right. That's a huge loss right there. The Randle Gobert thing. Jackson, you were alluding to Kenny Beecham's video. I did watch it a little bit too, and he did bring up a good point on how, I think the biggest question with Randle and Gobert now, and just being with the Timberwolves, is the spacing, the 3-point shooting for a team that already did not have a lot of 3-point shooting, if we're being honest. And now you go from, Towns to Julius Randle, who honestly, I would say is a bad 3-point shooter. He just takes a lot of them. But when he was in New York, Julius Randle did play with Mitchell Robinson, who is a worse offensive player than Rudy Gobert. I think that for as much, crap Rudy Gobert gets on the offensive end, he does have the fundamentals and is still a solid offensive player for what he gives you on the defensive end. And I went back, I used the same website that Kenny did, and I found some other Randle Robinson plays that Towns was making for Gobert that I think could prove why it is going to work. I think the 3-point shooting is going to dip for the Timberwolves in the starting lineup, which is definitely not ideal, but I don't think that it's going to absolutely fall off. So let's take a look at some of these clips. So this first one, Julius Randle is just a player that does such a good job of finding an opening when he gets inside and feeding it to big guys. And it's same thing that Karl-Anthony Towns does on this drive. Makes his move, finds an opening, feeds Rudy Gobert. Next play, Julius Randle, very physical in the post, backs in, shot fakes the shot blocker, feeds Robinson for the dunk. Karl-Anthony Towns going to do the same thing on this play. For I mean, Julius Randle is a great playmaker. You see here, he waits for Robinson to flash to the middle. The Timberwolves did a lot of that with Rudy Gobert, where Towns would be at the top and Rudy Gobert would flash inside. So I think that they're going to be able to run a lot of the same stuff as they did last year with Karl-Anthony Towns there. We'll see if teams get smarter, though, and just allow Julius Randle to shoot the three. Because to me, I feel like they shouldn't be scared of Randle shooting the ball. But I think that it definitely can work, and it's not going to be as much of a clunky problem as a lot of people think it will be.
Yeah, everyone thought last year it was Cat and Gobert that were going to be clunky and stuff, and Minnesota was really good.
And at the very least, Julius Randle is a guy, they on the money side of things, again, they get $21 million cheaper. And I believe he does have a player option for next season. So this is in some ways a big year for Julius Randle, to show that he's worth more money out on the market. Because I think all of us on this podcast, I don't think we're that big fans of Julius Randle's game. I know I'm certainly not. I know Jackson isn't that much as well. But it has led to winning basketball in the past. He has led decent basketball teams to good standings. And it's crazy, up until probably the 2023 playoffs for the Knicks, where Brunson then took over in the Cavs and Heat series, Julius Randle was the Knicks' best player. He was just their number one player and an all-NBA guy not even 2 years ago. So He is still a very capable basketball player, very intelligent. It just depends on how the Timberwolves use him. Right now, I'm worried that their offense is strictly going to be pick and rolls with Gobert or an Ant and Randle ISO. I'm a little worried that that's what it's going to be, because if that's what it is, Ant, I'm cool with. Randle, little iffy on it. Definitely still can work, but it could really go either way for the Timberwolves. I'm leaning on the side that it's going to be better than people think, but I would not be surprised at all if this just didn't work.
Well, the other thing with the Wolves is that it takes the pressure off those guys they just drafted, because they were pretty much asking them to be in their rotation. At least one of them was going to have to play that backup guard spot behind Conley. And now you throw DiVincenzo in there and you still got Alexander Walker. It takes off some of that pressure from Rob Dillingham and Terrence Shannon to have a lot of responsibility in their first year. So they should be able to kind of smoothly transition a bit more, I would imagine.
So when we look at the Timberwolves for the playoffs, or their potential to win a championship this season, I guess, do we think, even though, the Timberwolves did get two, really good players in this trade, did this trade make the Timberwolves worse to the point where you don't think they could win a title? Jackson, you say no.
No. Like I said when I first predicted this, I thought this trade would be a win-win for both teams, because I don't know, I feel like they're going to be able to make it work. I feel like they also traded one person who's not particularly good in the playoffs besides, Cat had a pretty decent playoffs this year. Game 7 in Denver was really good for him. For a guy in Randle who's had some decent playoff games before, and DiVincenzo had a great playoffs last year. So I think DiVincenzo helps his team's depth a lot, which was kind of a big question that we had as well. So I think it's a win-win. I think getting DiVincenzo was huge for them, because it could make up for some of the lack of spacing that they lost with Cat in some way, because he is one of the best three-point shooters in the league, and he can take over games. We saw him have multiple 30 to high 30-point games last year.
Even like a 60, that one crazy game against the Hornets, because Towns
they lost.
Yeah, that they did lose to the Hornets. That was crazy, because Towns is a player, we mainly talk about his shooting, but he is such a talented player with his ability. He can still rebound, great for a big man. He can pass exceptionally for a guy his size. And he can defend decently. Now, I said it again, Rudy Gobert definitely helped that. It allows you to play more aggressive defense at the top when you know that you have, the Stifle Tower, protecting the paint and all that. But I think that he is definitely serviceable. And, I think for both teams, it is definitely, I think it works for both teams. I think it does. The Timberwolves, I'm a little worried about their playoffs now because a big reason why they were able to win that Denver series was actually because of Karl-Anthony Towns on both ends of the floor. He played very well defensively. And the Timberwolves had finally, they were like the only team to really figure out the Denver Nuggets over, the last 2 seasons because they were built to beat them. And now they don't have one of those key pieces. They're going to ask Randle to basically do what Towns did on the defensive side, which is something that we can say about Randle. There have been times where he's just not where he needs to be on the defensive side.
The last thing I'll say is that I think the Timberwolves have one of the deepest benches in the league now because, I mean, you're bringing Naz Reid, Dante DiVincenzo, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker off your bench. I mean, that sounds crazy. That's a pretty solid top 8. And the one thing that I was talking with some of my coaches with this weekend was about this trade was Coach Dominique with the Cavs. He made this great point. Shout out Coach Dominique. He's a really cool dude. Made a great point that DiVincenzo was like the guy for the Knicks in the Philly series. Like other than Brunson, it was DiVincenzo who was like dropping 20-point games nightly.
Yeah, his volume
20
was
to 30.
insane. Yeah, the Timberwolves, I mean, DiVincenzo's role is going to be pretty, well, I don't know, simple. I mean, I think off the bench, they're just going to ask him to shoot the ball, and if he's the point guard out there, just make plays for other guys, which he has done before. So I think that you're right. They go from a team that didn't have a whole lot of depth to now 6th man of the year, great 3-point
future
shooter.
6th man of the year in Dante DiVincenzo. First franchise to win back-to-back 6th man of the year. You heard it here first.
That is definitely a possibility. And then you have Nickeil Alexander-Walker, as you mentioned. And then if they get anything from a Rob Dillingham or Terrence Shannon Jr. or even like an oldie and Joe Ingles or something like that, then this team is definitely deep. I think Anthony Edwards is definitely going to have to carry a lot more on his shoulders now, but he's definitely up for it. I mean, Joey has him as his MVP, so he definitely has the potential for that. You guys got anything else on this trade before we move on?
Dude, I'm excited for the starting 5 series. He's one of the 5 players, and dude, he's gonna make the show so funny. I'm so excited.
It's definitely going to be a lot of fun. Let us know in the comments your opinions on this trade, because like I said at the top, this is very polarizing for a lot of fans for both sides, but I think we did a great job of looking at the trade from every possible angle, because you can see reasons to love this trade for either side or just dislike it. It's just such a polarizing trade. But moving on, it is time to do our 30 key question series. For the next 6 episodes, we are going to be going over 30 key questions that we all have heading into the season, leading up to the regular season. All 6 episodes. We only have 5 more episodes after this until the regular season starts. So we're going to go 5 per and answer a bunch of questions regarding the upcoming season. So let's get right into it with question number 1. And it's only right because, coming off the off season, what were your guys' favorite moment of the off season? Jackson, let's start with you. Have an idea where you're going with this one.
Yeah, I keep it short and sweet. It's the prediction I've had for the last 5 months. We just talked about it. It's the Randle for Cat trade. I like it just because obviously I called it a long time ago, which just makes it more special. It adds to my lore of being the greatest prediction person ever. At this point, I mean, I'm yet to be stopped. Honestly, until I get stopped, I don't see a reason why I can't be number 1.
God, I can't stand the arrogance. It's just screaming Charlie XCX brat.
Are you gonna cry because you don't have good predictions?
That's the thing.
I just made a prediction. I just made my Dante DiVincenzo 6th man of the year prediction. First franchise in NBA history to win back-to-back 6th man of the year.
It's adorable.
Nick, what was your favorite moment of the off season?
I'm gonna go back to the Olympics for this one. Gold medal game. Newest Philadelphia 76er Gershon Yabusele rising up and slamming one home on King James himself. That was my favorite offseason moment. Only because, that is just not something that you can predict, not something that you can you would imagine that you get the opportunity to see. And like, I hate to say it, but like a no name in Gershon Yabusele. Sorry, Gershon. I mean, he had a great Olympics up to that point as well. Like, he was just torching everybody. So I'm not going to badmouth on that, but he was killing it. And then just to see like this guy who's having a great streak through the Olympics that everyone's getting to enjoy watching, and then rise up and dunk it on the GOAT. It's like, oh, dude, what you just did, you just exclamation pointed that like that. I thought that was it was my favorite moment.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. That whole run that Gershon went on, and now has a contract with the Sixers because of it. I mean, it's great to see, guys like that get, that sort of spotlight, because you never really get to see it, especially representing, your home country. So definitely a special moment right there. Joey's, because I do have all Joey's answers for these questions. His was the Olympic gold medal game. For obvious reasons, I assume it, because that was just such a legendary game. Really getting to see Team USA and all the great players from, our generation of watching, these guys at their prime all playing together. It really was special, and all, culminated with Steph Curry going crazy at the end of the gold medal game.
Yeah, Avengers Assemble.
Yeah,
the Avengers.
It was just unbelievable. But my favorite offseason moment, I guess a bit of a homer one, but it was Donovan Mitchell re-signing with the Cavs, because this was just something I was pushing, for the last couple of years, when everyone seemed to think that it wasn't going to happen, Nick Kov'S included.
Especially me.
Because I was just pushing it for the longest, and I was so happy when it actually ended up happening. So it always feels good when you get a star player re-signed to your franchise, because it doesn't always happen, especially in the city of Cleveland, I will say.
True.
Reed Shepherd's Summer League is another one for me.
Yeah, that's definitely a good one too. He was balling in that one.
You decided to use your pick to talk about yourself, even though we had just spent 20 minutes on the topic.
I kept it short and sweet, dude.
So at least hold off on the Reed Shepherd Summer League.
At least he kept it.
Because I think we have a Rookie of the Year prediction coming up, and maybe you can wait.
He's not my Rookie of the Year.
Potentially.
Sorry.
Well, don't give it away. Don't give it away.
I'm just gonna keep it a buck.
All right. Question number 2. This is the first actual one about the upcoming season. This is always a fun one. Who will make their first All-Star game this season? Now, I guess I should have added to this, who's going to make their first All-Star game, excluding Victor Wembanyama, because I feel like he's basically a given. He was just absolutely ridiculous last season. So besides Victor Wembanyama, who do you guys have making their first All-Star game?
Yeah, so I picked Josh Giddey for this one, because I think he's going to have a bit of a more free reign out there in Chicago to showcase his true. I think he's going to average close to it. I mean, maybe not close to a triple-double, but he's a guy who puts up those kind of numbers, and I think he's going to have really good numbers out there in Chicago, and also have something to prove from the jump of the season. Yeah, so Giddey's my pick.
Yeah, that's definitely true that he has a lot to prove. And I think that definitely could be possible. This year it might be a little tough because of all the guards that Chicago already has, but I like it though, for a guy to improve his stats a whole lot. I think this is one of the best picks out there.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all.
Now maybe he could be a most improved guy.
Definitely could be most improved player guy. That would definitely be fun to see that happen. Jackson, how about you?
Well, to go along with my standing prediction of Orlando at 1, I have Jalen Suggs.
Jalen Suggs, man.
Interesting.
Oh boy, did we lose Jackson? Oh no, Jackson just hasn't unmuted himself. But no, Jalen Suggs, that'd be insane if he made the All-Star game.
I think he's going to be a north of 20 20-point per game scorer while being one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. And I think if they're the 1 seed going into the All-Star game, which I think they're going to be 1 through 3, because I think it's a little shaken up now with the Knicks trade. I think they kind of move up to 1. Celtics move down to 2 for me, and Magic down to 3. But I think I could see any of those 3 finishing 1, honestly. But yeah, I think if they go into the All-Star game rolling, I think there's no reason he shouldn't be an All-Star. Wasn't Derek White an All-Star this year?
No, he wasn't an
He
all-star.
wasn't. He was close though. There were conversations about it.
There were definitely conversations about it. Yeah, Jalen Suggs.
But yeah, if he can get conversations about it, averaging what was he, like 16 a game? If Jalen Suggs, if Jalen Suggs is over like 20 to like 22, 23, playing the defense he plays, and I'm sure he'll be a big playmaker as well. I could see him being a all-star, not like a starter or anything, but like an end of the rotation all-star.
Yeah, that'd be a player that that's a player that I could pick for most improved player, because he's a guy that, was a pretty good scorer in college, and in the first few years of his career, he really struggled with that the first couple seasons, and he has now become this glorified role player who's, a defensive specialist. If he can get those scoring numbers, up a little bit with that great defense, and the Magic do succeed, it takes the Magic to a whole nother level. I think that if you're a guy like Jackson who thinks the Magic are going to increase in the standings a lot, it's going to be a lot on Jalen Suggs to improve and become that number 3, potentially number 2 guy, depending on, Franz Wagner, who could be another candidate for this question, in all honesty. Joey and we had the same player for this one, and sticking with the Cavs, it's Evan Mobley. Just because I'm super high on him coming into this season. I said it when we were doing the Cavs preview. This is my final season of believing in a breakout year for him. I think Kenny Atkinson is going to do a lot for him. I think all those, counting stats of points, boards, assists, his defense, it's going to all improve this season. And if that all happens, I think that makes the Cavs higher in the standings, and that's going to put Mobley in a position to potentially make his first All-Star game. I feel like any of those teams, because we all predicted Eastern Conference players, I feel like if any of those teams are higher in the standings than expected, then obviously it gives them a much better chance of making the game.
You guys did the old copy each other's homework on that one, huh?
Yeah.
I guess so. At first I was the only one to even say Victor Wembanyama, but I put a / Evan Mobley in case, everyone else said it. But
yeah, we all forgot Vic, because like you said, it's just kind of a given.
Yeah, it basically is. But first-time All-Star, always a fun one to answer. Let us know in the comments your prediction for a first-time All-Star, because there are definitely a lot of candidates. I thought about putting in an Alperen Şengün. I did a lot.
That one's too obvious, man. It's too obvious.
It's too obvious. But yeah, definitely let us know in the comments what you think about that one. Moving on to question number 3, getting a little more serious with this one. Which team is under the most pressure heading into the season? Nick, how about you go first?
Yeah, so I went with the Denver Nuggets on this one. And one of the reasons is not only because they lost KCP, it's the fact that, I've talked about it on here before, just a lot of disgruntledness, a lot of not seeing eye to eye between Michael Malone and their GM and their front office. I just think that there's a lot of pressure to kind of figure out what happened last year. Like, how do you go and blow a 20-point lead at home in Game 7? How do you let that happen? And what is our direction forward now without KCP? And I don't know. I just think they have a lot of question marks on their roster. I think they have a lot of question marks between the front office and their head coach. And, they don't necessarily give a lot of answers. Like, Michael Malone isn't one to, show his cards in an interview. He kind of keeps everything battened down. And Nikola Jokic is obviously the same way. He doesn't say nothing to the media. He's just going to show up and do his job. So
with his new goatee.
Yeah, it's just. Oh, really? I didn't see that.
Yeah, he has a new full-out goatee. It's crazy.
Yeah,
I think it could be a little pressure cooker up there in Denver this year. That altitude, the the air a little thin. Might get to him out there in the Nuggets this year. We'll see.
I think that's a good pick. Joey also said the Denver Nuggets, so you two on the same wavelength there. I think they're definitely a good candidate for this because of, they're low key in a similar situation to the Minnesota Timberwolves, where they just have so many players that they're paying a lot of contracts to, and it's caused them to not have as much depth as they've had over the last few seasons.
Jackson, who was your team under the most pressure this year?
So I have the Milwaukee Bucks because I just think they have such a in terms of just looking at like even the top, I'd say 9 in each conference that I had predicted. I think they have by far the shortest championship window. By far. So I think if they want to get Dame and Giannis a championship, it's gonna have to be this year or next year. I don't think their championship window is nearly as big as anyone else in either count. Like I think they have the shortest championship window in the league right now, at least in terms of like contenders.
I could probably agree with that, because as I love to say about the Bucks, they are old, and when you're old, your window is definitely definitely gets shorter. And plus, this is a team that their championship window. This is probably their sixth, seventh year of them being a legit championship contender. So they have been, in that title contender range for the last few years. And after a couple first round exits, even though injuries did play a part in that, there is definitely a lot of pressure for, at least the Dame and Giannis pairing to work out. That's definitely, very, very true. For me, I went with the Phoenix Suns as a team with a lot of pressure heading into the season, because I think that their championship window could be shorter as well. Maybe not as short as the Bucks because of their age, but I think the Suns are right up there when you talk about championship windows, and how small it is. Just because, I think Kevin Durant, what we saw even this offseason, there is a team, the Houston Rockets, that are willing to show, the Phoenix Suns their own draft picks and be like, hey, if this doesn't work out, we'd be willing to give you back your draft picks. And I feel like if the Phoenix Suns, I don't think that they're going to have another season where they get swept in the first round, but they are a legit chance for a play-in spot, as Nick predicted. They're a team that I think in the entire NBA has so much variance in where they could finish. To me, this is a team that with their talent, they could finish first in the Western Conference. They could also finish 10th because, sometimes that's just what happens with this team. So I think they just have a lot of pressure because if it doesn't work, I feel like the Suns will most likely make a move this next summer.
Yeah, definitely. If it doesn't work, they're going to blow it up.
Yeah, which would be crazy. I hope that doesn't happen because then the Suns would go back down to the bottom, because it's crazy. The Suns were at the bottom for a good decade. They were down at the bottom for a good decade, and they've been one of the best teams in the league. If you look record-wise, probably in the 2020s. And they've had their chances. They just got to make it all work out. That's for sure. But definitely Suns, Bucks, Nuggets, those are three teams definitely with a good amount of pressure. I think those are all very good answers for this.
We're so good at our jobs.
I know, right? All right. Question number 4, our first award question, our first award prediction, and it's going to be Rookie of the Year. Who is going to win Rookie of the Year? I'll start us off. I think it's going to be Alex Sarr from the Washington Wizards. This obviously not a very, Jackson, you got the same one?
Yep.
I just think in a draft class that doesn't have, the names, as it is, and a lot of, the top picks going to teams that, the teams that, have agendas, teams that want to move forward and win, like Arisa Shea goes to Atlanta where he's going to start, but he may be more of a role player type guy. Reed Shepherd goes to the Rockets where they have a lot of guys already there. Alex Sarr goes to the Wizards, who really don't care a whole lot about winning games. They're fine with him developing. And with that, I feel like even if he doesn't have the most efficient year, he's going to have the numbers to put him in the front as far as that Rookie of the Year race.
I'm curious who Joey had.
So Joey's pick for this is, I believe, the favorite in all the odds, and that
I
is
knew he
Zach
was going to pick
Edey.
it. Yeah, I knew
Zach
he was
Edey of the Memphis Grizzlies. And I don't know. To me, I'm a little worried about that pick because I don't know how the numbers will be. And Nick, I know you're a guy. You don't even know how well he could even play, if he could even stay on the floor.
Yeah, for me, Edey's a guy who it's either going to go really well or go really bad, and you're going to know it pretty early. So I can see why he would have the best odds because he's going to start, and it could go very well. Him playing next to Jaren Jackson on a contending team in the West with two, Ja Morant and Desmond Bane, really good superstar players. But yeah, I definitely have concerns about his speed. We'll say that.
Yeah, definitely a chance for that. But Nick, who is your rookie of the year?
So he's your guys' pick, the teammate of your guys' pick, Bub Carrington. 14th pick in the draft, traded from Portland to Washington on draft night. 14th or 13th pick, just outside of, or one of the last picks in the lottery, I think. And yeah, the reason I picked him is because they moved guys out of his way to have this spot in their rotation. And looking at his numbers from last year out of Pittsburgh, he averaged 14, 5, and 4 in just over 33 minutes a night. So, I mean, that's a straight up Craig Porter Jr. stat line right there, just doing it all. And obviously, Craig Porter Jr., if he was in the Cavs rotation, would have been the rookie of the year last year. So that's why I picked Bub.
Big Craig Porter fan over here.
No comment.
Oh man, but no, I mean, one of those Wizards guys will definitely have a shot to do it. I think there are other guys we didn't even mention, like a Buzelis in Chicago, one of the steals of the draft potentially.
Reed Shepherd in Houston.
Reed Shepherd in Houston definitely could be, a name out there. I know Laker fans will Dalton Connect. Everyone thinks that their rookie will have a chance to win rookie there, especially in this class, like I said, where a lot of the players are going to be playing the same amount of minutes. So I think the Wizards, a Wizard or a Piston or a Hornet or a team that's just not really, I won't say the Hornets because I think the Hornets are going to be pretty good. But a Wizard or a Piston, where they're going to get more minutes, is probably going to have a decent shot at winning Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
All right. Final question of our first burning question video. Question number 5. This one, a little bit of a different question, but one that I've been curious to hear your guys' answers on, honestly, for a little bit. I asked you guys to make a starting 5 of your favorite players to watch for whatever reason, of your favorite current players to watch. I'll go through and give Joey's real quick. So his starting 5, his favorite players to watch is Luka Doncic, Donovan Mitchell, DeMar DeRozan, Paolo Banchero, and Nikola Jokic. Obviously can't go wrong with any of those 5. They all have their own.
3 of those guys don't even play defense.
It shows you what Joey likes.
Yeah, what a turd.
He likes his offensive side of things. But Jackson, you go ahead. What is your starting 5 of your favorite guys to watch?
Well, I mean, there's a couple obvious ones. I mean,
just the Houston Rockets starting lineup.
Oh, bro. That's not it, okay? I got Jalen Brunson at the 1, Ant Edwards at the 2. I got Kawhi at the 3, just because I like to watch. I like defense a lot. That's why I like Ant, obviously. And then I like people who just know how to get to their spots and are mid-range snipers. That's why, I mean, I loved watching Clippers games for Kawhi last year. And then KD is just another guy like that. So I got him at the 4. And then P at the 5. I had to put him in there. Dude, I love that man.
I really like that lineup.
The flamingo shot is the best shot in basketball.
The best shot in basketball. Dude, that could become an unstoppable shot this season.
I was worried about Jackson's starting 5, but I really like his lineup.
Okay. All right, Nick, what is your starting 5?
All right, I went pretty offense heavy, I guess. So I went Kyrie, because you don't even need to make an argument there.
Complain about that.
I love watching Tyrese Halliburton run up and down the court because he makes some incredible passes, and he's just a really good transition player. So I got Kyrie and Hallie.
It's going to be all point guards. Oh, no.
No. I got Jaylen Brown here at the 3 because he's one of the best dunkers in the league, and he can play both ends. And I like watching him dunk on people. Honestly, that's real. That's why he's in the lineup. And then at the 4 and the 5, I got Jokic and Vic.
I like
Going
that.
double bigs. I like it. Definitely
You
can't go
got
wrong with that.
Wemby, Jokic. Who is your 3?
Jaylen Brown, Hallie, and Kyrie.
I don't mind that. That's a in terms of watchability, that's a watchable lineup.
Yeah.
I would have put
definitely a good
Jokic
one.
if I wasn't a Rockets fan. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah,
But
then your
I
lineup would have been 9 out of 10 instead of 8 out of 10. Or 10 out of 10 instead of 9 out of 10. I'll give you that.
But also Şengün's arguably more fun to watch because he can get up there with jumping, man. You ever seen him dunk on someone? It's the greatest thing ever.
Şengün he was nearly my center. He was second for me because I love watching Şengün play as well. My starting 5, I went with Kyrie at the 1 because dude, the ball handling, it never gets old watching him cross someone up and make a crazy layup.
Yeah.
My 2 is Donovan Mitchell because, he's such a skilled basketball player, but I also love how he uses his, he uses his strength to his advantage. He's one of the stronger, smaller guards in the league, and he likes to take advantage of his size a lot in the paint. I like that. LeBron at the 3. I still love watching LeBron a lot.
Such a Miles lineup.
It is. My 4, this is one that I actually wasn't really
Evan Mobley.
No. It's actually going to be Zion. I like watching Zion. Because Zion to me, like, it's so fascinating to me how he's able to finish so effectively at the basket. Like, seemingly no matter what defense, he's always able to get a decent shot up inside. And how, the last few years he's been able to operate with like not much spacing around him and still get his buckets. And then my 5 is Jokic because I love me a passing big man. I love it.
How am I the only Wemby?
I mean, I like Wemby. It's just
Wemby. We need a little bit more. We'll wait a little on Wemby. He's still got so much more things.
I'm the only one who likes defense. That's all I'm hearing.
Dude, hey, all I'm saying for watchability, Kevin Durant's always been.
Yeah, Durant. I was thinking about putting Durant in there over Brown.
And then Şengün, he's my favorite player on my favorite team. I'm gonna put him on my watchability list. I don't care if I take a hit for it. Okay.
Miles, who's your 4?
Zion.
Oh yeah, that's solid. I like that.
I almost put instead of Zion, I almost went with Paul George because he always he's got a silky smooth type game.
Dude, I thought Miles was about to go Noah Vonleh at the 4, former Cav, and then Jared Allen just for the whole former Cav and Cav lineup right there.
That's the only that's all I was thinking of when I wrote these names down. It's like, man, these are just Cavs or former Cavs players. But it's true, they're my favorite, top 3 to watch in the league. But yeah, feel free to leave a comment with your favorite starting 5 of players to watch in the league and any answers to any of the questions that we've gone over. So those are the first 5. We still have 25 more questions to go through over the next 3 weeks that will give us, all the keys and all the answers heading into the season. There will be no reason for us to even watch any games after we, answer all these questions because we're going to answer all the keys. So definitely stay tuned.
We'll watch the games. We'll watch the games too, though.
Yeah, don't worry. We'll watch a decent amount of the games. Don't worry. Can't wait for the season to get started. NBA Media Day was yesterday when this is coming out. So it's always great to see all the players, back getting ready. Everyone says it's like, first day back at school, and it is true. I'm getting myself really excited. Preseason games are starting this Friday. Gonna be definitely gonna be tuned in. Very excited for the season to start. You guys got anything else before we get out of here?
No, sir.
Jackson gives the good old shake. Rest in peace to Pete Rose. Got that news before we started recording. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe for more NBA content. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we will catch you in the next one.
Peace.